Okay, welcome. My name is Ryan Holger at Temperature Equipment Corporation, and today with me I have John Hurley of Respicaire Systems. They make a lot of residential air purifiers that we use, and we have started more recently using some of their commercial products as well. So we've asked John to come on today so we can kind of go through the details of some of the commercial products, what some of the differences are, when you might want to use one over the other, what sizes of equipment each is appropriate for, that sort of good stuff. So with that, I am going to turn the reins over to John.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. So to start off with this presentation, in commercial applications, there's a lot of variety in terms of fit, finish, the way the stuff's built. So what we try to do is find product solutions that are more universal in nature and kind of fit with their budget and fit with the opportunity. So having said that, in our business, this little screen basically identifies exactly what we're trying to do. So there's several directions that we all take collectively. And the way it works is we use ultraviolet products to disinfect and deactivate organisms. And of course, right now, that is a very popular topic because of COVID-19. And it's probably worth just spending a minute on that because it's a hot topic. And as some of you may know, there's 7 of these coronaviruses. 4 of them are related to the common cold, and the 3 recent ones are SARS, MERS, and now COVID-19. They are virus, and the biggest concern for us with them is that that virus can survive outside of a living host on exhaled nuclei from a human being for a period of time. It looks like they can survive anywhere from 60 to 90 hours. And then after that, of course, they expire. Having said that, that means an air moving system of any type has the capacity to move this stuff around. So the goal, of course, is to try and provide them with something that targets stuff like this, plus the other typical things we go after. So having said that, we know that ultraviolet works. So it makes a nice addition to any air moving system. It's basically 3 things. We need air cleaners to collect. We need some kind of ultraviolet system to kill. And then the third component is the gases. So VOCs of all types and configurations. And VOCs are pretty common with commercial environments. Could be processing, could be anything that's going on. So those are the 3 things we try and target. Today we'll deal with ultraviolet. And so I'm going to take us right into PCO. So in ultraviolet, what we've got are basically 2 types of solutions. Something that looks like this, and then something that looks like, let's go to a conventional light, something that has some kind of conventional lamp. So coming back, what we do here is we try to provide a commercial retrofit that will go after gases, VOCs, and microbials. You know, all the little living organisms. Could be bacteria, could be virus, molds, spores, this kind of stuff. The coils themselves create a perfect breeding ground for a lot of these guys. Many of these organisms like wet, cool, and so a coil provides the perfect environment for them. So the other thing is gases floating around. What we're doing with this particular technology, Air Sterilizer Pro, and its sister product, is we're providing what's called active ion oxidation. And what that is we go after gases and we go after airborne microbials. That's what this technology does. Why it's popular is because it's a simple retrofit. It's not a big investment for a lot of light commercial opportunities. And so it tends to be the popular product of choice. We have 2 separate models in this category, and it begs the question, why? One is ducted. So let's look at that. And first we'll just look at the technology. What do they produce? They produce 4 molecules, hydrogen peroxide, superoxide ions, hydroxyls, and really ozonide ions is the last one. These 4 oxidizers do 2 things. One, they go after all the gas molecules that are in the air, and they actually get rid of them. So they migrate, which makes this technology kind of nice, because it's not just about having it at source. These things migrate. They travel at 25 feet per second. So they're kind of a cool thing to have. And they'll go after all the kinds of odors, maybe chemical gases, those types of things. The second thing they do is oxidizers strip the skin off of airborne microbials. So literally what happens is a bacteria's skin is stripped and it bleeds out. And then any of them that come in contact with the UVC aspect of it, UVC breaks the DNA. So that's what these things do. You have 2 choices with us. A ducted unit, which is this model here. This comes in a 16-inch commercial version, high temp module, and it's installed usually in the supply run. So we have a template, you cut the hole, the unit mounts in, and it has an auto sensing ballast. You'll connect it either to 120 or 240, and they can be tandem. So you can tandem up to 4 units on one power source, and it's pretty handy, this model, because as long as they have somewhere in the supply where they have some access, and I understand sometimes the equipment might not have that, but in most cases it does. This is where they put them. And they literally would put one on top of the other in a vertical format if they have a fairly tall section of duct. And how do you size it? So basically, it's pretty simple. It's 1 unit per 3,500 CFM. And voltage, they can pick whichever one they want. There's a sister product to this, and I'll go there so that you can see it. We make a magnetic version, and we make this ducted version. Ducted for the supply. Magnetic is when they want to put it inside the equipment. So this version, what's the difference between the 2? Cosmetically, they look different, but in terms of performance, they're identical. Both are 16-inch, both have a catalytic sleeve on them that you can see. And if I go to the other unit, you'll see what I mean. They both have the same kind of technology on the back end. So let's review sizing. Anything up to 3,500 CFM and over 1 unit. As you go over that, you just do the multiplication. So 6,000 CFM, you'd put in 2 units. And that's how these things are sized. The ballasts are all auto sensing. The boards are all high temp. And lamp life is anywhere from 6 to 12 months. The lamp life depends upon what they're dealing with inside the equipment. It also depends a little bit on the dirt load. I like this model because it breathes well in commercial environments. I like it because it's robust. I like it because it's convenient for them. And if it gets covered with contaminants, let's say the filtration side is not that great, the worst case scenario is you're going to pull a lamp out and wipe it or replace a lamp. The maximum lamp life for these models is 1 year, and all warranty is 1 year. And that is true whether it's magnetic or true whether it's ducted. Okay, if you're under 3,500 CFM, there's 2 other models. There's a 9-inch model, which basically will go between 2,500 and 3,500 CFM. And then if you're 2,500 CFM, you know, because sometimes what I find is there's a lot of light commercial applications, which might be 1,200 to 5,000 square feet, where the owner is looking for something, but the equipment actually might be residential. So what we find a lot is instead of putting RTU up on the roof, many times they've got just a residential furnace and a horizontal application up in the rafters. So in situations like that, he doesn't have a lot of CFM, so that's where the 7-inch model is pragmatic. So sizing is pretty simple. Anything up to 2,500, you go with a 7-inch air sterilizer. Whether it's ducted or magnetic is application choice. Contractor might have a preference. The magnetic ones go inside the cabinet and have all the same connections, 120, 240, auto sensing. And then if it's bigger than that, 25 to 3500, you got a 9-inch model. Again, ducted or magnetic. Anything over that, you go to the 16-inch unit.
John, we have a few questions if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so one of the questions, well, actually you answered one of them regarding the CFM, but his second part of Bob's question is, do we do anything different on sizing if it's 100% outside air application as opposed to a, 20% outside air, 80% recirc application?
Good question. And in situations like that, we would always want the units to be in the supply. So let me back up and picture and say, if that's the case, this is the unit we want to go in, and we want it to go in the supply, and then then we don't have that issue. It's the same sizing, even if they're using 100% outside air, same sizing. Okay. And the reason is the CFM from the unit is going to be the same regardless. So whatever's coming into it is going to be treated, and what's being discharged will have a preset amount, whatever that is. So these units won't change because we size it based on that CFM, because with oxidizers, you want to make sure you have the right amount, but you also want to be cautious about having too many. So it's a controlled and guided amount, and that's why we recommend that CFM reference, to keep it simple and keep it on target. Does that answer it?
Yes, sir. Next question. The light bulb lifespan. With prior UV light bulb products, normally we leave them powered continuously, and we do not switch them on and off with the fan because that tends to kill the bulb faster. I assume that's the same case with these type of products?
Absolutely. Yeah, the challenges with all these lamps is they're actually quite conventional. So they use igniters, just like, these days with some people, they don't even know what an old light bulb was that had tungsten in it, right? Because everybody's gone to LEDs. But the old lights, it was when you threw the switch sometimes, that's when the light would be stressed. So the igniters are what are vulnerable, and these are designed for constant on. This particular model is constant on for two reasons. One, it's the igniters in the lamps that aren't set up to handle that. But the better reason is because these oxidizers travel no matter what. So even if the fan's not on, the oxidizers still travel. So they still work and still do a job. So it's a handy feature.
We have a bunch more questions. If you're good with it, John, I'll keep asking them.
Great.
All right, so one of the questions is, and this one's kind of quirky, but if you have something that's kind of in between the sizes, like let's say you have like 4500 CFM or something like that, should you use two small ones, use one big 3500 CFM 16-inch model and just kind of roll with it? Should you put a small one and a big one in together?
Yeah, good question. So the way I do that is, allow me to do it this way. Let's say you're at 3000 CFM. The question is, would I put in a 9-inch or would I put in a 16-inch? In that application, I'd put in 9-inch. So the default is always the smaller unit.
Okay. We have several questions on people asking what auto sensing means in relation to the ballast that you're talking about.
Okay, so contractor conversation. And I apologize if anybody is a contractor listening. What we try to do is make it as easy for a contractor as we can, so that when they get to job site, the ballast itself will determine what the incoming voltage is. So that means that if he's 240, he's just going to connect to 240. The ballast itself will be auto sensing. It'll convert internally and run it through the 240 circuit. If he hooks it to 120, it's the same two wires. It doesn't matter which way the wires are hooked up, so they're not polarity dependent. They will then determine, oh, I have 120. That's what auto sensing means. And that just allows a contractor to not have any kind of switches or connectivity instructions that he has to pay attention to. Just literally, they're going to take those two wires and they only have one rule. Give me 120, give me 240, we'll figure out the rest.
Perfect. We have a question from Kevin asking if you can tandem mount the magnetic mount version.
No, you can't. Good question. You can only tandem this model. So when you go to the magnetic version, You cannot tandem this, so you have a dedicated ballast. I will say that on this unit, there's one option only. Sometimes if it's a small unit, like you can in this particular model, let me go to it. Oops, where is it? Oh, I'll go to the ballast. That'll show you the ballast. I think I have a picture of the ballast, which, yeah, there we go. So the ballasts give us some options. That's how we do that. So there is a ballast that has one lamp. So you'll see one LED light on this ballast. That if there was a 2-lamp system, you would have 2 LED lights. A 3-lamp system, you have 3 LED. This ballast is presently offered, and this system is offered in a 1-lamp or 2-lamp configuration. But the 2-lamp configuration at this moment is only the 9-inch. So just FYI, so it would be 16-inch, or if you wanted a 2-lamp, it would be 9. 16-inch and some of the other options are coming on this. We're adding to it because that's a question that has come up on some of the lighter units where it's internal installation, if they can have one ballast that'll power multiple lamps. So right now, we can only do a 16-inch, and we can do a dual 2 9-inch in this model. Does that answer it?
I think so. Keep
Cool.
going with the questions here since they're semi related. So one of the questions is, with the air spiralator product, would it be better to position the unit closer to the cooling coil so you get the benefit of the UV light shining on the coil?
Always. Always. If you can get it close to the coil, great. Although with this particular product, it's not essential, but it's a benefit for sure. Anything shining on a coil is a benefit.
Agreed. Robert asks if there's a magnetic version available for the smaller 7-inch residential products.
Yes. Yes, there's a 7 and a 9. And in matter of fact, maybe I'll reword this. When you go to the 9-inch and you go to the 7-inch magnetic base units, they really are residential models, but they're perfectly applicable to small commercial.
Agreed. Jay asks if the ozone is adjustable. I'm not sure what he means by that.
In the 16-inch version and the 9-inch version, no. In the 7-inch version, yes.
Is that done with those little metal plates that cover part of the bulb?
Absolutely. So, and the 9-inch can have that, but you just have to, on the purchase order, would have to be requested, you know, because it goes out naked, so to speak. The 16-inch lamp, the 9-inch lamp go out naked. The 7-inch lamp always has the adjustable clips on it. And that's because a 7-inch lamp technically can be used probably up to about 3,500 CFM as well. But we designed that one really for the small CFM ranges, anywhere from 800 CFM to, let's just say, 3,000. So what would happen is if somebody actually wanted to use a 7-inch in a 3,000 application, they would take the clips off. Well, then the 9-inch makes the most sense just to order it that way because it comes preset to go in that application. You know, so that's why we do it like that.
No, that makes
but
sense. Yeah, if you're ordering
yeah,
9 or 16-inch, you obviously need more output. So why would you need a device to limit the output?
That's exactly right.
If you got the small 7-inch, you may need less than that output.
Yeah, for sure in the 7-inch, the adjustability is needed.
All right, I can either keep going with tons and tons of questions, or we could keep with the
No,
presentation.
keep going. Let's do the questions. The questions are important.
Hey, I'm good with that. I like questions too. I'm with you, man. Is there difficult? Steve's asking if it's difficult to convince customers that they may need a new bulb every 6 or 12 months.
Great question. And I'm going to give you my standard answer, which I share with everybody. And I'm going to just turn it around a little bit and just do a typical consumer complaint. This is a very common thing that we get. I would say I get, a couple of these, 2, 3 of these a month. Somebody will phone us up and they'll complain. And they'll say, you know, that dealer, or it could be commercial or residential, you know, that dealer charged me $2,000. Is that right? That seems very expensive. And normally what I do in that situation is I just quickly ask them, well, what did he put in? And it's usually like, oh, he put in 2 systems, blah, 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 spent time. And I go, ma'am, that sounds like a bargain. And they're like, really? Yeah, sounds great. And they're like, oh, And if I flip that around, let's do the lamp. They'll phone us on a lamp. They'll say, you know, the dealer charged me $200 for a lamp. Ouch, that seems very high. And, you know, I'll say, actually, it's a bargain. And they'll go, oh, why? I say, think about it. You go out to dinner once with your husband or, you know, son, daughter, wherever. You know, you buy one drink. I'm pretty confident it's going to be 200 bucks. So for the same investment, you protected your family for an entire year. That to me is a pretty good value. What do you think? And it's amazing. You know what they all do? They go, yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Right. Or
And
the cost
so,
of mixing work for 3-4 days because you're sick, kind of thing.
yeah, like it's, and you know,
Yeah.
all sales pitch aside, this COVID thing has kind of just emphasized what a bargain IAQ really is in terms of the dollars you spend on your property anyways. A car's 20 grand, you know, a new door for the house is about 12,000 bucks. So anyway, you add it up, your health is critical, your health is prime time, and a $2,000 investment is nothing. And the water companies figured this out years ago. I paid 4,000 bucks for my water system, and every year it's $300 for the cartridges. And to tell the truth, it's awesome. You know, I don't buy water anymore. I don't mess with the plastics. I don't have to do recycling. It's better for the environment. So indoor air quality stuff for commercial owners and for residential people, it really is a tremendous value. It's just a question of viewpoint. So I point that out to commercial people too, because sometimes they'll come back and they'll say, well, what am I going to be paying for lamps a year? I say, well, you got 7 units in there, so you're looking at, you know, maybe 1,500 bucks. And they're like, ouch. I said, actually, guys, think about it. And just in terms of productivity alone and your own health, that's peanuts. You know, what's your heating bill a month? Right? In most commercial properties, the heating bill's $400 or $500, so can be more. So, you know, for a couple of months heating bill, you protected the health of your entire group here, including you. What a great deal. So that's how I usually approach that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have the Oxy 4 version of my house. We have those in some of our offices and classrooms at our own company because it's cheaper to put that in than it is for someone to not be at work. It literally is. All right, next question, John. Steve asks if this is practical for an air handler of 75,000 CFM, which is a pretty big air handler. It's like 185 tons if I'm doing the math.
The answer is yes. And the secret is you got to get access to the supply. So that's it. So go to the supply side and you're going to use exact same formula. 3,500 CFM. So if it's, you know, if you find out what the CFM is versus the tonnage, then that'll help you figure out how many units to put in. So, as an example, casinos, we do a lot of the casinos, right? And they're brutal. They're just plain brutal. And even if they have no smoking and haven't had smoking for 10 years, the moment you walk in, you can smell it. So the only way we can tackle that is put them in the supply runs. And, you know, I've been to a lot of them where they walk me up and they've got massive air handlers. And, you know, of course, they walk in the compartment where the doors are. And I usually walk out and say, guys, find me the supply runs. And in the last casino I did, they had a big unit and 4 supply runs. All 4 supply runs were circular duct, but nice access. So I said, oh, here's where we're going to put them. And so we did the CFM calculation, put them in there. And because it's a casino, I did double down because smoke is really, really challenging, and solve the problem. Now, when you walk in the front door of the casino, you can't smell it. It smells fresh and nice. And that's exactly what the patrons want. You know, they want an environment where they'll spend more money and part with their cash. And some of them do still allow smoking, but very few.
All right. John asks if the magnetic is also to be installed in the supply side internal of the unit.
So when it comes to the magnetic version, my comment there is put it where you can. Because if it's going inside the equipment, sometimes you don't have a lot of convenient access or easy access. If you have supply access and you can get in there and mount it there, great. If you don't, usually it'll go upstream. That's fine. Put it in front of the coil. And that's just typical of those types of applications, because sometimes it just depends what the configuration of the equipment is like and where you can get convenient access.
I agree. My preferred position would be on the discharge side of the cooling coil, where it can shine on the coil, shine on the condensate pan, and also be used in the air. That'd be the perfect spot. But like you said, if you can't get it there, you can't get it there. James asks if we, that's a good follow-up to what I just said. James asks if we have to worry about the plastic drain pan in regards to degradation because of UV.
Not typically with this particular technology. The reason is that if it's, I have to be a bit careful because I don't know every manufacturer, but I do know Carrier. And Carrier was the very first company to put the inhibitors in their plastic drain pans. They were also one of the very first companies to actually build knockouts into their case coil cabinets. So they were ahead of this curve ages ago. So the plastics today that are being used that have the UVC treatments, they're amazing. They don't have any degradation, and they can handle pretty much direct UVC. And the reason I know that is our demonstrators, if you ever see our dual demonstrators, they use the exact same plastic. And if you take our UVC meter and you read the emission with the plastic cover on, it's 0. If you lift the cover up and put it underneath and read the lamp, it goes up to 1200, 1400 microwatts. So their filtering capacity is terrific and their durability is strong. So it's usually not an issue. Having said that, these lamps are also in a slightly different range, so they're not quite as potent on the UVC side of it. They actually have more potency in the UVV side of it, Ultraviolet, which is more friendly to the drain pan. You got two benefits.
Thank you, John. Imran asks, what are the drawbacks and issues with multiple overload of lamps in the unit?
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. What you'll find with all of these devices, regardless of who makes them, is that there's a point at which they love it, and there could be a point at which it's too strong. So let's do too strong. They might say, you know, is there any way you can decrease that that sort of fresh smell effect, or that they can smell it in the air, and it might be too powerful. The solution to that is disconnect one lamp. If that doesn't do it, disconnect 2 lamps, because it's usually only in a multiple lamp configuration where that tends to happen. The other thing that can happen, it's very rare with this technology, but it can happen, is that there's somebody in the premises who has an allergy or a sensitivity to the oxidizers. So if we put in 100 of these, we'll get 1 or 2 customers that are like that. And the way I can put it to you is one man's food is another man's poison. So sometimes these things are the absolute cure, and every now and then there's a person who reacts to it. When that happens, the solution is we convert the lamps. So the lamps themselves produce one of the oxidizers. 3 of the oxidizers are produced by the ultraviolet wavelengths hitting the cartridge. So if you look up here and you see this wavy cartridge, that's treated with titanium dioxide. So the light hits that titanium dioxide and it creates 3 oxidizers: hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyls, and supercharged oxygen. Those particular oxidizers have no odor, therefore non-offending in that area. The lamp produces the 4th one, which is the ozonide ions. That's the one that they sometimes react to. So by changing the lamp from a UVV lamp to a straight UVC lamp, you drop out that oxidizer. So if I could put it this way, you turn an air sterilizer Oxy 4 into an air sterilizer Oxy 3. You drop out one oxidizer. And that can happen. And if it does, that's the cure. You just convert the lamp.
I never knew that the 4 in Oxy 4 actually stood for something. I've had it in my house for 3 years, and I didn't know the 4 was significant of anything. Now I got it.
Yeah, it does. It stands for the fact that it produces 4 oxidizers.
That's
And so
awesome.
does the Air Sterilizer Pro, but I had it's just the Air Sterilizer Pro we built first, and
Yeah,
I thought about the 4 later.
yeah. It already had a name, so.
Yeah.
All right. Alex asks, what is the operating temperature of the lamp if we are mounting it upstream of the gas heating or electric heating coil section?
So perhaps better worded for me, and if I don't answer this properly, just kindly ask again. The lamps are very temperature resistant, so I wouldn't worry about them. I will after this seminar get you the actual temperature limit on them, but it's quite high and it's in Celsius. So the lamps can tolerate for sure 250 Celsius.
Yeah, I mean,
So
the
that's
lamps are
not
heaters themselves, so the lamps are fine. He
right.
probably meant to
Yeah.
ask more about the electronics and the ballast, but he said lamps.
Okay, so let's do the plastics. The plastics, that's actually, the titanium dioxide is actually a high temperature plastic that we injection mold and then treat with titanium dioxide. Its softening point is 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so if you know that you're going to be, 170 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, right where this unit might go, don't put this unit there. Okay, because
Yeah.
that sleeve will have a softening. All the other parts are metal. The cords have a high temp. They have a higher temperature in the plastics that are used on the cords, and the ballast itself is in an epoxy, so it has a high temp epoxy. So the vulnerability on the ballast isn't actually the board, it's the plastic.
Okay.
Again, the same box has a 190 degree
Sure.
softening point. So if the metal that you stick it on hits 190, the plastic will start to soften and warp.
All right. So let's answer it this way for Alex. Alex, I would recommend that you do not put it in direct line of sight of the heat, the gas heat or electric coil, because the radiant heat's going to make it pretty hot. As long as you get it around a corner, around a bend on the other side of the coil, I think you'll be fine. But I would not put it directly next to the heat exchanger because it will get above those temperatures if you're in direct line of sight. Brandon asked, this one's probably more for me. What do we most typically stock at TEC? 7-inch, 9-inch, and 14-inch. We stock a bunch of different Respicaire stuff, especially on the residential side. We stock large quantities of the 7-inch Oxy 4 model. That's kind of our main workhorse model. We use it on residential and light commercial. So we usually have those. Everything else we'd have to kind of look at individually and or talk to our sales folks to see what we do and don't have. Mike,
Yeah, no,
sorry.
Apologies. Go ahead.
Mike asks, is the Oxy 4 mounted? If the Oxy 4 is mounted on a return air, will it still work?
Yes, absolutely. It's not our preferred location, but we get it. Sometimes you don't have a choice.
Yeah. Ray asks for the adjustment on the plates. This would be on the 7-inch bulbs then that have the little plates. Is there a general
Yes.
baseline for the adjustment, like that you base it on odor or something else?
Yeah, so there's two ways we look at it. One, from the factory, we set a default position. So we kind of set the default for 1800 to 2400 CFM. Okay, so when it leaves the factory, it's set there. So if you know it's 1200 CFM, you're likely going to want to, at the job site, just turn one of the clips and turn it over so you're covering a little part of one lamp, and that'll adjust it down right away. If you're putting it in a home where it's 2900 CFM, you might want to take one clip off. But from the factory, the default is anywhere from, I should say 1600 to about 2400 square feet. We've got it set up for that range.
Awesome. Just so everybody knows, what I did at my house is took all the plates completely off. We are filthy bastards at my house, and we needed all the output we could get. Even though we only had 3 tons of airflow,
Yeah,
took them all off, man.
I didn't answer the stock question, so let me answer that. The good news is on the Air Sterilizer Pro, we have lots of stock in all models. So stock's not an issue. We ship every Thursday. So we don't ship any other day. We only ship on Thursdays. So you can know that about our company. And just if anyone's interested, why Thursday? Because we're actually on the other side of the border, so we have to consolidate freight and we have to do all the customs paperwork. And these days, that's quite the chore. So we consolidate everything all week long, put it on a transport truck, and we ship it to Buffalo, New York for forwarding on FedEx, or it goes by LTL dependent. And so that's why we ship every Thursday. LTL can go any day, but all of our courier stuff goes every Thursday. So commercial stock's pretty good with us. And the way it was set up originally with TEC was that commercial stuff would be ordered when needed, residential product would be stocked. So what we did on our side of the fence was we just built up commercial products to make sure we have inventory. So if we get an order for 20 items, we've got it, you know. And we have pretty healthy inventory. I have 700 16-inch lamps in stock, you know, 500 9-inch. These are strictly commercial items. So the inventory is good, and we have lots of air sterilizer pros. So this particular product is well stocked.
Awesome. Okay, here, I don't know if I understand this question, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. James says he's installed several different UV type lights in his own house, and he had to turn them all off within 2 hours because his wife complained about a sore throat. And he had a couple customers with the same issue. I've not heard anything like that, but I don't know if you have.
I have.
Okay.
I have. And usually when that happens, there's a sensitivity to anything that has oxidizers. So that's a good entry for this next part of the presentation. Let's go to conventional lamps. All right, just conventional UVC lamps. Why have them? What's their purpose if we've got PCO? Well, this was really where we started the business, all of us collectively. And there is a market for this, where some customers are sensitive to some of the oxidizers. If they are, they want a conventional lamp. Coils is where we always used to put these things. Any kind of infested coil is a problem. They contribute bacteria, spores, they have all kinds of nasty molds. They do discharge, and they can support virus, you know, so they can extend a virus's life if that virus is airborne. So keeping a coil pristine is smart. Let's take this customer. My question would center on this, is that there's two types of lamps out there. One lamp, it doesn't operate in the UVV range, ultra Victor Victor. It doesn't operate in that range. It only operates in the UVC range. That makes the lamp completely non-ozonating. This would be the type of lamp that you would want to put in a home where there are sensitivities, and you would put it at the coil. So up over the A coil, you would put one of these or something like this. This particular model is designed for light commercial to go inside the equipment. They come in 16-inch, and they're kind of a handy unit where they want to treat the coil. Some customers do both. They'll put a PCO in the supply run, and then they'll actually put a couple of these at the coil. And frankly, not a bad idea if you really want to have a lockdown on treatment. So these come in, you know, single, they come in dual. They're 16-inch twin tube high output lamps. So these are the kinds of products you would use when you have that in a person who has a sensitivity. Residentially, because this came up, we also make another product called the Odormizer DTX. And that particular product is designed for your home. People that, like your wife, have these types of sensitivities. You know, so that's what it's for. These typical products, even if we add oxidizers, they only produce the other three. They produce the hydrogen peroxide, the hydroxyls, and the supercharged oxygen, and those don't cause any sensitivities. Almost all sensitivity, 100% of it, if someone has it, is connected to the ozonide ions. And so by switching the lamp, that solves that, or by not using that type of product in the first place, use this type of design, which is conventional.
Hey, John, since you brought up the Odormizer product, that is a residential only product, I believe, and it's basically a UV light with carbon cartridges on it to help absorb odors and VOCs.
Yeah, correct. It is a residential product at the moment. If one wanted to sort of mimic that, you could order an Air Sterilizer Pro with a 16-inch conventional lamp. We don't have it as an SKU, but just because we're on it, if you took out the 16-inch UVV lamp in the Air Sterilizer Pro and put in this particular lamp here, which is a conventional UVC lamp, you'll turn it into an Oxy 3, right? You'll drop that one oxidizer. So whenever I hear that somebody has a sensitivity to ultraviolet, I know that the sensitivity isn't to the ultraviolet. The sensitivity is almost 99.99% to the ozonide ions. Cool.
Do you want to keep going, or want me to ask you questions? Which way?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm guys, just so you're all aware, I'm gonna start cherry picking questions because the amount of questions is actually insane. This is the most questions I've ever had in a webinar, which is great, John, because I love the questions. So I'm just gonna start cherry picking ones and trying to group them together if they sound similar to somebody else's.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I'll just walk through the other way we can go.
Do it. That's
yeah.
fine.
So these particular products, that's what they're for. They're really for your light commercial units, anywhere from let's say 3 to 6, 7 ton. These things are pretty pragmatic, easy to put in, and magnetic base. All the same sort of auto sensing ballast, so same features, pretty easy to service. So again, they're germicidal units, high output, and they're conventional, robust configuration. They're tough for the commercial environment they go into. And then they also come with an option, a parabolic reflector. I get asked this from time to time, and you may not know this. We give you this parabolic reflector option, so you can get one without, and you get one with, and they're exactly the same configuration. What's the purpose of the reflector? It doubles the output of the UVC. So it can turn a 36-watt lamp into a 72-watt lamp, and it's designed to shine on a coil. So they're directional. So you want that shining on a coil. It's an inexpensive way to bump up the intensity of a low-cost product. So sometimes that resonates with certain customers because they don't want to spend big money, but they're looking for a decent result. So these conventional items are kind of pragmatic that way. You do have them, so just FYI. And then if we're looking at this kind of system, the rule of thumb is, how do I measure this? Okay, now we ignore CFM and we do it by coil size. So that's not always easy for you, and I admit that. So sometimes we have to kind of guess at the CFM and just sort of guess at the size of the coil. But rule of thumb for these units is 1 unit per 12-inch of coil surface area, because usually you got a flat coil in these applications. Unless it's residential equipment, then you could put it over the A coil. You put it the opposite way, and you can cover both sides of the coil with 1 unit. But if it's a flat, any type of flat coil, it's 1 unit per 12 inches of coil surface area, and that never changes. So if it's a 75-ton piece of equipment and you want to treat the coil, you need 1 system per 12 inches of coil surface area. And in this type of technology, the rule of thumb is bigger is better. So more powerful lamps, better result. And that takes you into this next type of commercial system, which is conventional. So these are designed to go inside the equipment. And I want to say this right now, these are coming, so they're not out. But because we were doing this, I thought I'd show you the pictures of them. What it is a magnetic-based telescoping system that goes inside and treats the coil in commercial equipment. This is a commercial unit. They come in 32-inch telescoping systems and 62-inch telescoping systems. And the lamp just gets bigger, that's all. These are high-intensity lamps. They come with a parabolic reflector that shines on the coil. So they're very intense. I will tell you this, they're very dangerous. So these are high output. They're great, they do work, and it allows you to have that option for this type of technology that's been in the market for quite some time. So just FYI on these, they are coming, and they're pretty versatile and pretty cool. All the same features, auto sensing ballast, everything else is similar. They're just for bigger systems, and they're conventional UV lights. And again, 1 per 12 inches of coil surface area. So I'll back up and go back to where we were, and now I'll take questions again. Oops, Ryan, you there?
Sorry, I had myself muted while you were talking. Jerry asks, is there any difference between Oxy 4 and ozone generators?
Yes, a big difference. Ozone generators are strictly corona discharge systems that are emitting only O3. So any ozone generator, its sole purpose is to produce ozonide ions, nothing but O3, and they generally produce it in very high quantities. Where are they used? Sanitation plants. Wherever our public utilities are processing human waste, that stuff does not smell nice. So big commercial ozone generators would be used there because it's outdoors a lot of times discharging, and they're treating the exhaust. So not a big deal, and they're not worried about safety and all that stuff. The difference between that and our technology is we've got titanium dioxide to create 3 other oxidizers. So we create hydrogen peroxide, they do not. We create hydroxyls, they do not. We create supercharged oxygen, they do not. And these things are all combinations of hydrogen and oxygen. So it's a very volatile and how would I put it? It doesn't like being in the state that we create. So hydrogen peroxide is easy to understand because we poured it on a cut when we were kids, and it disinfects. And it does the same thing in the air. So 2 hydrogen, 2 oxygen, and they go out and they work on killing microbials, and they work on oxidizing VOCs. So ozone products have 1 oxidizer, we have 4. And then they produce a high output of ozone. We produce a very controlled, limited amount of ozone so that we're below the threshold limit and we stay within safety limits. Does that answer it?
I think it does. The only place I've seen people use ozone generators residentially or even in commercial offices is like for remediation problems, like temporary. Hey, your whole basement flooded, it's trashed, it's nasty. They'll put in a portable ozone generator for like 2 weeks and then take it back out. You don't want to have it in there like long term.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, my brother gave me his car years ago, and he was a smoker, and it just was awful. So what did I do? I literally pulled it up to our office, and I stuck Air Sterilizer Pro inside of it, and just ran it for 2 days.
Oh wow.
And yeah, 2 days later, car smelled great.
Dude, there's your next product. You need to make a 12-volt cigarette plug-in version of this. That's
No,
your next
thank you.
thing. Get on that.
I'll be happy if we get through this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, really. All right, next question. James asks, does putting the device on the cold supply air side when you're in the AC mode reduce the capacity? I think he's asking if temperature has any effect on capacity.
It's a good question. And in the early days, there were 2 types of lamps, hot cathode and cold cathode. And cold cathode lamps, that was one of their claims to fame. So a company called Sterile Air was really big on cold cathode. And they knew that cold cathode lamps performed better when the temperature dropped down and got cooler. The hot cathode technology, though, has come light years ahead, and the lamps are very different. As an example, you can hold and touch lamps today. You know, you couldn't a decade ago. And why can you touch them? Because they used to run at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Now they run at 100, maybe anywhere from 95 to 100 degrees. So what that did was they're not as affected as they once were. Still, the rule of thumb is you'll lose about 10%. If you're really close to a cooling coil, you will lose 10%. If you're bathing that coil, though, it doesn't matter, because what will treat the coil is duration, not necessarily instantaneous performance versus a cold cathode lamp. So that would be the difference. Like, you know, the lamp technology is very different today, and we don't run into that issue. And in fact, nobody will pay the premium for a cold cathode lamp anymore because you're gaining 10% for 4 times the cost. It's just not worth it. So yes, if you put it and you're right there for the period of time that your temperature is really cold, the efficacy of the lamp will drop by about 10%.
All right, John. Shane's going to ask the $1,000,000 question. I'm surprised you're the first one to ask, but can any of these technologies kill COVID-19?
Okay, nobody, I don't want anybody to get me in trouble here. I have to be very tactful about this question. And also, I do believe that it's important to be professional. And I like marketing as much as the next company, but I try to do my very best to stand behind what I put to word. So here's the story. COVID-19 is really practically identical to SARS. So it's a virus, it needs a living host, and where it's troubling is when it's airborne. So the vulnerability is when this thing is outside of a host and living for 60 to 90 hours before it finds another host. We know with certainty via white papers and the scientific community that UVC knocks out SARS 100%. And there are white papers that show that. So we have no doubt that given a chance, it'll knock out COVID-19. And I don't see why it wouldn't, because they're sister organisms. They follow all the same patterns. So why wouldn't they have identical vulnerabilities? Now, having said that, it's not been tested. Nobody has tested against COVID-19. We're asking. So what I can let you know is that I've already got a laboratory that's running more tests for us on SARS, because at least I can test against SARS. And it's the same with MERS. These particular virus have been transferred from animal to human, okay? And this particular strain, they think was transmitted in the Wuhan meat market in China. And if you've ever been to those meat markets, they're a bit frightening, because there's a guy standing outside in 80-degree temperature with no shirt on chopping up meat. And they think this virus was transferred from a cervid cat. So the Chinese eat cat meat. We don't. So, and they eat some other exotic meats. They eat monkey meat, right? And that's where they think the first transmission was ages ago. In the Middle East, same thing. MERS. How did it get transferred? Their meat market, because they got the same situation. Somebody outdoor in a meat market in high temperature chopping up meat. And if the meat's contaminated, it's pretty easy to pass the touch from that meat to themselves, unless they're wearing, protective gear. And that's not their claim to fame in those third world economies. So I can't see anything about this virus that suggests that it's smart or clever or different than anything else we've seen. COVID-19 is SARS. It is MERS. It's just a different genus. So it's got a little bit of a twist to it. So I'm pretty confident that any kind of ultraviolet system would be a smart investment. And it's not just about this one particular organism, it's about all of them, because now we have MRSA out there, which is that resistant bacteria that they have no cure for. And ultraviolet knocks all this stuff out. And I might share this with you because I find it fascinating. Mother Nature's pretty smart. I'm always impressed by things that nature can do that we can't seem to manage. And nature is the one that created ultraviolet light, not us. And we need it. If we didn't have it, our atmosphere would be overrun with bacterial and viral and airborne contaminants. So trivia for you, only 2% of the UVC from the sun gets through. 98% is filtered out by the ozone layer. So remember years ago we had an issue with ozone. Well, how important is that layer? Because if it doesn't filter out UVC, everybody on the planet is dead, because this light does kill. It attacks living cells, breaks the DNA, and will wipe it out. So nature's smart. She lets 2% through so that our atmosphere doesn't have an overgrowth of these microbials. We mimic that to go after them when we have concentrations or situations like this pandemic. So I'm pretty confident that ultraviolet just makes a fantastic investment for everybody wherever air is being moved. Having said that, I want to repeat myself. We have not tested on COVID-19. If we can, oh boy, I'm all over that one. Thanks.
Hey, John, are you good with about 7, 8 more minutes of questions? Is that cool with
Sure,
you?
no problem.
All right. So anybody who's already put a question in, I'm going to get it read off to John here. If you have more questions after that, which some of you will, just hit me up or John up or whoever, your TM later, and we'll get you those answers. Otherwise, we'll be on here for 3 hours, which is fun, but got more webinars to do. So Bob has asked, is there any possibility of using any of this equipment in systems that don't have any air moving equipment? So specifically buildings and homes that have hydronic heat and hence there's no airflow in the wintertime. Is there some kind of portable version or anything like that?
Short answer, no. We don't make portables. I would like to. I just haven't done it. You know, I'm going to give you a cute example. Our sales manager, VP of sales, she travels with an Air Sterilizer Pro. She travels with a 7-inch version. Every time she gets to her hotel room, she plugs it in and goes down and gets her groceries or eats or whatever. Then she comes back and she turns it off, and she loves it because it knocks out. As you know, when you travel hotel rooms, they're awful. The carpet's horrible. You know, every other human being's been in there, and the VOCs, the molds, and everything else is terrible. So it's kind of a cute story. She uses it all the time, but they are not designed for occupied space.
All right, so that portable one you need to make with a 12-volt plug-in for the car, you need to have a ballast that can switch between 12 volts and 110 for hotels, and you can take it in and out.
Gotcha.
There's been lots of questions about availability. I'm not even honestly going to attempt to answer those right now because it's all over the board. Some products we have stock in, some models we're out of, some of them we have an order coming in next week. So if you're looking for a specific one, hit up your TM and we will find that, or we'll find you something as similar as we can. Maybe you get a 9-inch instead of a 7-inch, or who knows. But we'll help you figure that out depending on what thing you're looking for at the moment.
Yeah, and I would want to say this. Everything you've seen in this PowerPoint presentation, we're healthy. So you're only, worst case, 2 weeks away. Yeah, I have healthy inventory on everything you just saw, including even the new commercial long lamps. You know, we just aren't ready to box them and have TEC approval on them. But the SR, all the SRDR models, lots of stock, and we've got, and all the Air Sterilizer Pro, lots of stock. You don't have an issue.
Mike asks if these technologies can kill viruses on surfaces.
Yes, all oxidizers, regardless of who makes them, the oxidizers float and migrate. And if they make contact with organisms, they'll strip the skin and knock them out.
Andrea doesn't have a question, but she threw in a little extra comment that humidity is also essential for oxidation. 35 to 40% would be ideal.
It's true. If you have decent humidity and you have oxidizers, they are synergistic. They love working together.
That one we answered. Chris asked if there's anything for the mini split market, which I'm assuming that has to go to your new invention of the portable one.
We don't have a decent mini split solution right now. We're frankly, we're busy on several technologies that we think might be pragmatic. The challenge with mini splits is that there's no space, and you need space. So we've seen a few interesting things out there. We're looking at 3 technologies, and we're trying to figure out how do we make this easily retrofittable? How do we make it so that it'll actually have an effect? And how do we tackle the voltage issues? You know, because 120, 208, 240 for the indoor wall unit. So we're probably 3-4 months out before we'll have what we think is a viable product.
All right, Ray asks, is the Oxy 4 UVV or UVC?
Both. It's got a combo lamp, so it's in both ranges. It's mostly UVV.
All right, Terry asks, just to confirm that if a system has several main trunk lines, it is okay to install the unit in just one of them due to the migration of the oxidizers throughout the conditioned space.
Correct.
James asks if dust buildup affects output.
These are pretty robust, but yes, if they get filthy, you need to wipe them off and put them back in.
And then probably a good time to also chime in that if you're doing this for one of your building owners, it's also a good time to talk to them about better filtration. A lot of these units, especially rooftops, have like the lowest end half-inch crappy filter. It's probably a good time to beef up the filter anyway because they're already concerned about the air quality, and that'll help keep these bulbs cleaner as well.
Yeah, and if for what it's worth, what we find in our market, there's a bunch of equipment in smaller industrial complexes that actually only has a 1-inch slot. So oddly, that makes the I don't know if I put it in here. I usually do. Yeah, that makes the MicroClean 95 really pragmatic for them, and it's a great retrofit. You know, because lots of times that's exactly what they got. They got like a 1-inch or 2-inch, and we do make this in 1-inch and 2-inch. And it's just if you're there, it's hook up to 24 volt or 95% efficient down to 1 micron, and it bumps up their efficiency. And it's interesting for me because our unit where we are has residential equipment to heat and cool it. So I lease it like everybody else, and all throughout the unit are twin systems. And what we've got is 2 of these. So when the guy came in to do it, 2 of these air cleaners are in the unit plus Air Sterilizer Pros. So sometimes these things make a really simple add-on for them.
For those who don't know, that MicroClean 95 is kind of like having an electronic air cleaner where it uses, positive, negative attraction, but with the benefit of disposable media as well. It's kind of like a media filter and electronic filter kind of all in one and fitting into a normal slot.
Yeah, it's the upside in commercial is that what I find with a lot of commercial products, they also want service friendliness, because I used to be in the commercial filter business for years, and one thing that I went through so many times was we'd win the bid, we'd put the stuff in, and a year later you couldn't find it. And you'd go back and go, what happened? And they said, well, maintenance, gosh, that was a lot of work, and the guys didn't like it, and wah. And I was always astounded. So one of the things we focused on is making sure that if they go back in, how can we make it extraordinarily simple so they will actually be okay with maintenance? So this product suits that, because they pull it out, open it up, throw pads away, put 2 new ones in, slide it back in. Yay. And they just will buy a 48 pack and they'll leave it up in the utility room. So, if they're coming quarterly for maintenance, or, even if they leave the maintenance up to the proprietor, it's still quite simple.
Bob asks, are there any velocity limits on duct applications for these commercial models?
Yes.
I'm assuming he's talking about like Air Sterilizer Pro and Oxy 4 type models. Obviously, the bulbs don't matter, the UV bulbs.
Yeah, everything has been set up for conventional airflow. So anywhere from 300 to 500 feet per minute face velocity is what we've set up for. So most commercial systems are designed at 500 feet per minute face velocity on filters. So if you have a 24 by 24, that's supposed to be what the velocity is. Residential is supposed to be 300 feet per minute, but quite frankly, it's usually 375. If it's 400, 450, whoever designed that residential system is over the limit. So all these systems are based on those 2 airflows, and all the testing is based on those airflows, because if you do an ASHRAE filter test, commercial filters are tested at 500 feet per minute face velocity, residential 300 feet per minute, and that's the standard. So that's how they're tested. If you're running higher than that, you're going to weaken the effect, or you're going to need more lamps. So if that's the case, if I know the guy's running 700 feet per minute and he's not going to change it, can't do anything about it, I'll say, well, fine, then you're going to need a lamp every 6 inches. So you got to put in a few more lamps. That will also cause the question to arise, what about static? Will there be some static? Yes. We are going to add some resistance, but fortunately air will take the path of least resistance. It'll flow around the rack. So while it's an impediment, it's not a big one.
That's perfect, because the next 2 questions were related to drop in static and CFM, so you just answered those. James asks, isn't supercharged oxygen just ozone?
No, it's actually where we actively put an ionic charge on O2. So O3 is ozone, 3 oxygen molecules, and we make it negative, O3 negative. Supercharged oxygen is O2 negative. So it makes it reactive. And why do we do that? Because it causes it to split. And in the splitting process, it goes out and finds other molecules to cause this oxidation process. The thing about hydrogen and oxygen is they're always trying to get back to their natural state. So that's where nature's smart. So what's a natural state? H2O, water vapor. It likes being water vapor. O2, without a charge. You know, O2 is common. Nitrogen, like all these basic elements, those are what hydrogen and oxygen are going to do and where they're going to try to get to. So why is hydrogen peroxide so reactive? Because it doesn't like being in that format. It would rather be O2 or it'd rather be H2O. So what you find with these oxidizers is once they do their thing, they revert to their common elements. And that's a pretty typical process, as that's how they all get back to where they want to get to.
All right, 3 more questions and then we'll be wrapped up, John. Does the bipolar ionizer air treatment kill microbes? Joe asks.
Yes. Here's how they work. Perhaps let me, because time is short. If I took a cord, split it, stripped it, and plugged it in the wall and stuck it in you, it'll kill you eventually. So electricity kills. When you electrically charge something and positively charge something and send it out into the airspace and push it onto a small microbe, you can and you will kill it. The secret to bipolar ionization is it has to be close. So it's an interesting technology. I'm not convinced it's a pragmatic technology for keeping coils clean. I ought not to say that, I guess. What I should tell you is if you like bipolar ionization, we've got it. And does it work the same as the competition? Yes. The secret to it is get it close to the coil because it will kill. There's no question that if you put out a lot of ions, they will attack organisms on a coil. And in fact, the Carrier Infinity and our Ultra Clean 99 air cleaners, you could almost say that those are bipolar systems that guarantee performance. So the capture and kill is true. And when you charge something that's positive and you have a negative grounded media right next to it, boy, does that work great. Charge it positively, got something negative to grab it, boom, your efficiency is terrific. And because you've held it there and exposed it to the electrical field, you capture and kill. And it's the same with our Ultra Clean 99. They work exactly the same way.
Perfect, John. All right, the last question, and because several people have asked the same question, on that MicroClean 95 filter that you were showing a minute ago,
Sure.
What's the pressure drop on that filter?
So the pressure drop on this animal is 0.15 to 0.18 at 300 feet per minute. If you're running it higher, then the pressure drop will rise. So let's say typically I see it at 375. In those applications, it's running around 0.2 initial static. So with us, perhaps I can be of more help by telling you this. We have 3 static pressure Excel spreadsheets, and we use those for the contractors because they always ask the question and they never size it right. So what we do is we show them the tonnage, the BTU and the CFM, because it doesn't matter which way they go, and then it'll show the recommended filter size for them to keep them out of trouble. Just in case they're working with ductwork or they're sizing ductwork and it's inappropriately sized. Because here's what I can tell you about these air cleaners that we make anyways. Static is never an issue. The issue is always the return because they don't pay attention to increasing the return. And the classic right now is 95% 2-stage variable furnaces. You know, they'll take a 2020 engine and they try and put it in a 1950 car, and they don't do any measurements. So, you know, what are the chances that 95% 2-stage is going to work efficiently? The only chance is if the original air filter was sized appropriately. If it was undersized or designed for those old systems, they need to they need to put in a bigger product. And the good news is it doesn't cost them anymore. So If I'm talking to a contractor, I say, guys, a 1625 and a 20 by 30, same price. And they're like, oh, yeah, bigger is better. Like, come on. First thing they taught us in HVAC school, you can never have enough return air. So, and I will share this with you, 4 and 5 ton equipment needs 2, always. No matter who makes it, needs 2, even residentially. They don't always do that, but you need 2. That's the only way you'll get proper airflow.
All right, John, thank you very much. This was awesome. You answered about 8 of my questions and about 80 of everybody else's questions. For everybody that's on the call, if you had questions that we didn't get to, I apologize. I know there's more. Please follow up with your TM or follow up with me. That's fine too. We did record this, so if you have a coworker that you want to show this to, it's going to be available in about 2 hours. It takes me that long to compile the video stuff. But it'll be available in about 2 hours on the exact same link that you registered for this call on. Exact same website it'll go to. But if you need something else on it, just reach out to us and we'll get back to you. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for setting this up. Greatly appreciate it. Everyone, have a wonderful day.